exercises that go with DBS type braces, and the key idea that is before all the others is related to the mobility of your middle, of your pelvis, of your hip joints. And so, you'll see that that's the main thing that gets worked on. And they have to do with the relationship of your center of gravity, which is about belt buckle high, to your base of support, which is the outline of your feet. And so if you stand with your feet about shoulder width apart in a normal stance, slightly turned out, then that's a good position to start with. And the first exercise begins with holding on. All the exercises that we're going to do ramp up. And they ramp up from holding on fully to holding on with just fingertip pressure to not holding on at all. And so you can start off holding on. And when you hold on, you put your hands next to your hips, so not out in front so that you're like this, and certainly not backwards like this, but just right next to your hips. And that lets your pelvis go both backwards and forwards, and your hands can stay still. And so the first exercise is to keep your shoulders still. You can imagine like a broomstick or a pivot that goes right through your shoulders, and you just pivot right on that line. And your pelvis moves forward and backward. And by moving your pelvis in that way, you can shift your weight all the way to the front part of your foot. When you shift forward, and your heels will come off the ground. And then when you shift backwards, your toes will come off the ground. And your knees stay straight the whole time, so that the bending is all in the hips. And when you come forward and backward, you want to go to extremes. So you go as far as you can, and then as far back as you can. And you do it repeatedly. If you do it rhythmically, like even with music playing in your ears or something, it helps and it works better. The muscle that goes from the inside of your pelvis through to the front of your thigh is a big muscle, and it's hard to stretch. And so repeatedly pushing it to its limit and holding it and then doing that over and over, that is known to work. And so 10,000 repetitions is not too many. And you just keep going and doing it to music. And this first exercise is probably the most important. There's a test of balance that's well known called a reach test, where you put your arms out and you see how far forward you can reach. And this is like that, except for the reaching is done with your belt buckle. And so you try to get that to go out as far as you possibly can. And that'll cause your hip joints to bend backward or hyperextend far. And that ability to bend like that pays a big dividend later in walking. And so, so this is the first exercise. And you start off holding on, and then reduce it to just fingertip pressure, and then get to where you can do it without holding on at all, and get to where you can really go far. And that's where you start. The second exercise is similar, but it goes from side to side. And again, the trick is to get your center of pressure on the floor to go all the way out to the perimeter of your base of support. So before we were going out to the tiptoes and your heels, and now we're going out to the very edge of your foot. So you have your hips go all the way to the side and go as far as you can. So when you go to one side, you're keeping your chest centered and not moving very much at all, and your pelvis moving, doing virtually all the motion. And when you go to one side, the side that is not bearing weight, just allow that knee to bend, so that you have nothing on that side and everything on the other side. And then you go out one side as far as you can, and then the other side as far as you can. And you'll develop mobility, stretching in the muscles on the side of your body and the side of your hip. And
that's a golf motion.
It's a golf motion, and it's this.
And I could never do that.
These exercises.
I used to golf, and I could never do that.
You don't do that when you play golf?
I couldn't extend it like they wanted me to.
By doing this, you can increase whatever you have. And increasing what you have will pay off in the quality of your walking.
Right.
And so these exercises really have more to do with dance instruction than common physical therapy. And so you want to go as far as you can and practice and get farther. and get to where you can do it without holding on. So you ramp up until you can do it without holding on and go as far as you can. And the next exercise is like hula hoops, where you're doing those two, but you're combining them to where it's one motion all the way
Do
around.
that for 5 minutes.
And your pressure on your feet will go all the way out to the tip of your toes and around the edge of your foot, across the back of the heels,
That's fine. I mean,
so that you're at the perimeter of your base of support. You really push the extremes as far as you can, and listen to music, and do many repetitions. And the ability to do this without holding on and go really far will pay off on the next set of exercises. The next series, we take a step and break it down into little bite-sized pieces,
Yeah, it's
not
fluid from.
build up the movements and
No, it's fluid
patterns
from, it's fluid from
that
repetitive use. You're
will,
irritated,
when you add them all
and
together,
just a swelling from
lead
that.
to the ability to walk so that your forward momentum
So,
is
What I would.
uninterrupted and it's smooth as you go through gait cycles.
These
That's
patterns
the
in here,
real payoff. And when you see somebody do that, it's much faster,
That's
much more efficient, and
alright
that's what we're
for
working up to.
right now,
And the thing we're working against is what everybody will do when they're
What I
injured
would
or
prefer
have a disease that disturbs balance or other components of walking. And they'll go into a guarded position, which means hips flexed,
but it's mostly.
trunk leaning forward,
And that's because
reaching
when
out
you
with their
step into
hands,
your tibia,
knees
you're
bent. You know,
Mm.
this kind of a position is,
This is
that's
all
what
flat,
is
which
natural
good. You
to
did a
do
good job
in a
good job pulling the
disturbed
muscle over. It's an anterior
condition, and
approach,
we're trying to
which is
reverse all that.
common use
So you have to
of
gain, if
So
have
this
to
is
gain
on the indolimbic
range of motion in your hips
Right here's
and in the rest of your body in order to get
So
your
what happens,
pelvis
you're walking
out
on a
front
treadmill,
instead of being
and
behind.
if the speed's a little
And
fire,
to
and
get
what
it to
they're
be
doing is
able
good,
to
you're
shift
trying to
under
make it-
control
you're
from
making
side
it
to side so
stepping
that
out,
you
feel
can
straight.
control where
You're a little
where
weak,
your
you have
weight
to
is
push
on your
it
base
to
of
it.
support by
But on
small
a treadmill,
motions of
the
your
little
hip.
speed kinda makes you do
And
it.
so we exaggerate those
And when you
motions
step
when
in
we're practicing in order to
constant
have,
repetitive, you bang, bang,
have
bang,
a
the
lot of
pressure you're
control
gonna
and
get,
a lot of
no
range
matter how
available
good
when
you
you're
make a
walking.
socket, if you're stepping
And,
up in stride, the most pressure is gonna be.
After practicing these that I've shown you so far, which have to do with standing still, then you can
That's the
put one
vector
foot in front of the
angle
other,
that your bones take.
and you can start with a
It's just
short
too-
amount
it's just
and
too
then later
much
extend to
trouble.
a large
One
amount.
time.
And you do the same exercises, but not exactly straight ahead. There's a little bit of combining the side to side and straight ahead, so it's slightly diagonal. And it's again virtually all pelvic and virtually no upper body. So that you shift your weight all the way back to the back foot, enough to have the toe of the front foot come off the ground. And then with pelvic motion, shift all the way onto the front foot, enough to have the back heel come off the ground. And your knees stay close to straight the whole time. And in this position, this hip, non-weight bearing hip, will be bent backwards or hyperextended
I
quite a
could
bit.
leave these pads in
And
for you.
the front hip is also hyperextended a little bit, and you can get your weight to go all the way out
I think the biggest
front
thing is
part
just need to
of your
rest
front
that,
foot.
get a little bit of time off,
in this way.
you know.
And
And
so,
use your prosthetic, I'm gonna tell you not to use your prosthetic.
again, you will progress
If you need
from
to
holding
use it
on
go
to
way
fingertip
at point
to
B,
not
do
holding
it,
on at all.
But rest it over
And
the
if you
next
can do it the
couple
way that I'm
days.
showing you,
In other
then
words,
that'll be really
use your
successful.
prosthetic when you
And then,
have
of course,
to.
you do it
Put it
on the
on
other
every
foot.
day, if you're
the
not
other
going
way.
anywhere, so you don't get used to not having it
When you
on.
do it
Keep wearing
and
your
compare
suit, but try
having
to
one
put
foot in
pressure
front
in
to
your
the other
tibia
foot
for a
in
few
front,
Okay.
your asymmetries will show
It's
themselves,
just, I think it's too much.
show themselves,
repetitive motion.
and
Too
whichever
slow.
side is worse,
Okay.
that's the side you work on more, so you can get them to be as even as you
I
possibly
wanna
can.
look at that now.
When you're able to
So,
do
like I
this
said, we're
and
waiting
really
for you
get
to
your pelvis
10
out forward
10 sock.
easily,
So,
then you can extend your feet farther and do the same exercise with a bigger motion, and your feet spread farther apart.
yeah,
There's
as
a
soon
bit
as
of
he told me, he said,
side-to-side
"Oh," 'cause
motion,
I thought you were just gonna say
and
you
a bit
need
of
to
front and
tweak
back
this,
motion, but
uh,
nearly all with
in
the
there.
pelvis.
And then when you said,
And,
oh,
and
you
you,
put it
you know,
down, then
as with all the others, progress from holding on to
See part of
fingertip
that
pressure to not holding at
prosthetic
all.
stuff is even on a treadmill, he said, yeah.
When you're able to do it, and you can really get your pelvis out front, and shift your weight successfully from one foot to the other,
That doesn't
in
happen.
this way,
It's a bad
the
fit.
next thing to add on is a cha-cha-cha kind of exercise, where you're shifting, and you get all the way up to this position with your pelvis leading, your weight on the lead foot, and your trailing foot has the heel off the ground, and this position is
That's just the sleeve.
well prepared to advance the trailing leg out in front with a very, very small motion of your hip, kind of a small twist and a little,
Yeah, I'm
just a
going with
little
it.
nudge almost. and it will come forward into its right position, so that the energy it takes to advance your foot is just extremely low. And so you can advance your pelvis forward and move your weight from the trailing foot to the lead foot, and then when you're at the edge of the,
Did you have a
lead
5-minute
foot,
frame on today?
you can flick the other foot forward and then continue advancing right
Put
onto
that
it.
padding in, which makes a difference.
And that's cha-cha-cha motion, where you
Put it on.
just
I
repeat
stand up and-
that
Okay.
transition from bearing weight on the trailing
Padding
foot,
is taking the place
bearing
of
weight
the
on the
side.
lead foot, and then a slight flick and and transfer your weight onto the new lead foot.
Or,
And
I'm gonna let you play with a little bit while you're.
you have your pelvis going a little side to side and a lot front to back.
Feel weird, you are, just pull them out.
And of course, you'll do it in the other direction too. After you're able to do this part,
I think you will, yes.
then it's an easy thing to just add one step on top of another and move.
Go ahead and pull that up, I'll let you just take a look, a couple steps.
The exaggerated motions of your pelvis going from side to side and keeping it way out front is helpful, because everybody tends to do the opposite. And so that wiggle will, it should be a bit pronounced when you're practicing.
It's okay to use that if that's a nice,
And,
what you want is just a nice round thing on the side of it.
Getting up to this level should
You know, was really good.
really show
And,
in the ability of a person
he
to
couldn't even walk
go
in his
through a
chest.
whole
Yeah,
series
it's
of gait
just
cycles
too
with
much repetitive motion.
normal step
Because
lengths
if people
symmetry,
don't understand, when I s-
and
when you
with
say early
momentum
on,
that is
and I know for
sustained
instance,
and
months,
doesn't
when the
slow
course of the
down and speed up as a person goes through the gait cycles.
You're still
And
straining.
so that's really
You're still
the,
well larger
the
than
output
you're
of
going
it.
before. And so the
Okay,
types of
let's
things
see what
like
happens.
repetitive motion on the treadmill for 5 minutes is a lot, you know, that's a lot to do. If the plans do that.
Cause I,
does that make sense?
you know, this, that's people.
Let me get my glasses.
Yeah, in case you need it.
I don't know why I can never move my hips.
Do it, take a couple steps if you can.
People's muscles on the front, this iliopsoas muscle, it's almost always flexed if you have something wrong with you that disturbs your balance, because it's obviously flexed when you're sitting. With virtually everybody, it's flexed at least some when they're sleeping. And then when you're, if it's flexed when you're walking, it never gets extended. And if it goes any length of time, it's, you really can't extend it. But the good news is, by working on it, if you work on it like I was showing, and you do that hundreds or thousands of times a day, that repeated pressure has an effect, and it will reduce the tightness.
Now, is this something that you think I should try to do every day or every
Yes,
other day?
every
Try to do
day.
it every day. Okay.
And as many, however many repetitions you can do, you know, the more the better.
Okay.
And doing it to music, I don't know why that helps, but it seems to work better.
I love music.
And
Any particular songs you'd suggest?
something that you like, you know, there's something you don't like.
Pink Floyd probably wouldn't be a good suggestion.